I knew something was wrong the moment the red dot appeared on my forehead. It happened right as the orchestra played its first loud chord, a bright, perfect note that echoed through the Savannah Grand Ballroom. To everyone else, it was music. To me, it was a warning, a bullet waiting for a reason. I stood on the second-floor balcony, looking down at more than 300 guests who believed tonight was safe. They held champagne like it was part of their bodies and smiled like their entire lives were rehearsed. The chandeliers sparkled above them, sending broken pieces of light across the floor. It was beautiful, too beautiful for the kind of danger I lived with every day. I didn't move. A mafia boss learns early that panic gets you killed faster than bullets. I let my hand rest on the brass railing and breathed slowly, pretending I was just admiring the crowd. But inside, every instinct sharpened. Someone was here to end me, and they'd chosen a room full of expensive gowns and polished shoes to do it. Then I saw her. She was moving through the crowd with a grace that didn't match the chaos I felt in my chest. An emerald dress hugged her figure. Her dark hair was pinned back like she had stepped out of an old painting. She wasn't smiling like the others. She wasn't trying to be seen. She moved like she already knew every inch of the ballroom and every secret hiding in it. She stopped at each art display with the kind of confidence I recognized instantly. She wasn't pretending. She was working. She made notes, adjusted cards, studied details with calm eyes. When she finally looked up at the balcony, her gaze locked with mine. Just 2 seconds, but long enough for me to know she saw everything about me, and long enough for me to know she was not just a curator, she was something else. I walked down the curved staircase, mixing into the crowd. People greeted me with fake warmth. A senator shook my hand like we were old friends. I pretended to care, but my attention stayed on the woman in the emerald dress. She was standing near ancient artifacts now, speaking to an older collector. Her voice was soft, steady, controlled. I moved closer, pretending to admire a painting I didn't care about. When she turned, she almost walked straight into me. Her eyes already knew where I stood. She apologized politely, then nodded at the painting beside me. "That's a reproduction," she said. Whoever forged it forgot the lower brushwork pattern. Her tone held no fear, no nerves, only knowledge. "You have a sharp eye," I said. "Ela Rosland, curator for tonight's authentication." Her handshake surprised me, firm, confident. And her fingers had calluses, unexpected on someone who handled art more than weapons. Before I could say more, she leaned in slightly and spoke in a low voice. "You're standing in direct line of fire. If you shift 3 inches left, you'll survive 2 more minutes." My heart didn't race, it froze. "What did you say?" I asked quietly, forcing my face to stay neutral as laughter and music filled the air around us. "Primary shooter. Northeast balcony," she said. 2 backups. 1 behind the orchestra. 1 near the service hall, all 3 waiting for a signal. I moved those 3 inches. It was a small shift, but it changed everything. "Why warn me?" I asked. Her eyes scanned the room again, calm, precise. "Because they told me if I authenticated the sculptures without question, they'd spare someone I care about." She paused. "He died 8 months ago anyway." So I stopped following orders. Her voice carried sadness that didn't belong here under bright lights. And for a moment, I saw her. Not the curator, not the calm professional, but someone who had lost too much and was still standing. "What do they want tonight?" I asked. "To kill you, and to use this auction to clean money through fake provenance documents." She shifted closer like she was explaining art details. "To anyone watching, we looked like 2 people flirting over a sculpture. To them, you're a problem that needs removal," she whispered, "and I'm a loose end." I took her hand before I even understood why. "Dance with me," I said. Her eyes flicked up, surprised, but she understood instantly. Movement would break the shooters. Aim. It would give us time. And it would look innocent. She slid her hand into mine. Warm, steady, stronger than she looked. We stepped onto the dance floor as the orchestra shifted into a waltz. Couples swayed around us, blocking sight lines, creating small shields with each turn. Her hand rested on my shoulder, and even through the danger I felt something stir in my chest. "Thorn is watching us," she whispered. Of course he was. The man behind tonight's operation. The man who thought he could remove me like checking a box. "How long have they controlled you?" I asked. 2 years. They used my brother's debts, then they killed him, and they used his death to control me even more. She didn't tremble when she said it. She had already lived through the worst part. "You gathered evidence," I said. She nodded. "Everything. Enough to destroy them. Stored in several places. If I miss a check-in, it all goes public." The music swelled. The lights brightened. The danger tightened around us like a rope. "You're brave," I said quietly. She looked up at me. Her eyes carried exhaustion, fear, fire, and something else I didn't expect. "You don't even know me," she whispered. "No," I said, "but I want to." As we turned, the red dot brushed my cheek like a kiss from death. Ela didn't flinch. "Smile like it's a joke," she said softly. "Red dot on your head." I smiled, not because it was funny, but because for the first time in years, I suddenly had something worth surviving for. The moment Ela told me to smile, everything around us sharpened. The music, the lights, the heat of bodies moving in rhythm. I kept my expression casual, like she'd whispered something playful instead of warning me about a bullet waiting to tear through my skull. I held her waist a little tighter, guiding her into another smooth turn. Each step was a shield. Each movement forced the shooters to readjust. "To everyone watching, we're just dancing," she whispered. "To the men trying to kill me," I whispered back, "we're a problem." Her hand slid down my arm. Steady but tense, I could feel her pulse through her fingertips. It wasn't fear. It was calculation. She was thinking in patterns, in angles, in possibilities. Something about that focus made me trust her faster than I should have. "Thorn expected tonight to go clean," she said softly. "Move the money, kill you, kill me, control the narrative." "And now?" I asked. "Now you've changed everything." The orchestra's tempo slowed, letting the dancers drift into softer steps. Ela leaned closer, her cheek brushing mine so the shooters wouldn't see her lips move. "He knows I warned you. He's already adjusting his plan. He'll act fast." "He won't touch you," I said. "Not while I'm here." She gave a quiet breath that wasn't quite a laugh. "You can't promise that." I just did. When the music faded, applause rippled around us. Couples separated. Waiters moved in like a tide, offering champagne. The crowd shifted toward the stage where Preston Thorn, polished as ever, stepped forward to begin introductions. "We need to move," Ela said. "The longer you're visible, the sooner they'll improvise." She stepped off the dance floor, and I followed her through the moving crowd. She weaved with practiced grace, making herself small yet always within reach. I stayed half a step behind, watching every shadow, every balcony, every doorway. The shooters adjusted positions. I could feel it. "That's the primary one," she murmured without turning her head. "Northeast railing. Black suit. Too stiff for a party." I didn't look directly. I didn't need to. "When did you spot them?" I asked. "When they arrived with equipment cases labeled as catering supplies. Wrong posture. Wrong movements. Wrong shoes. Quote, you are not a normal curator." She hesitated for the first time tonight. "My father taught me to identify threats before I learned to read." That told me more about her life than she meant to reveal. Thorn continued welcoming guests, his voice smooth like expensive wine. He talked about charity, art, community. He was selling innocence while standing on a foundation of blood and corruption. Then he announced the first pieces. Ela's breath shifted. She wasn't just a curator now. She was a witness preparing for war. "I'm not letting you expose them alone," I said. "You should worry about yourself," she replied. "They want you dead more than anyone." "Maybe, but they fear you." Her eyes lifted to meet mine, and for a moment, the noise around us disappeared. She didn't look like someone running out of options. She looked like someone who'd fought alone for too long. "Stay close," I said. "I already am." A waiter passed, holding a tray of champagne. Ela grabbed 2 glasses, handed me one, and raised hers slightly. From a distance, it looked like a toast. "Smile," she said softly. "They're still aiming." I smiled again, not because she told me to, but because her voice in that moment felt like the only steady thing in a room full of danger. "You asked why I warned you," she said. "Yes." She took a slow sip, eyes scanning the room. "Because killing you doesn't save my life, and letting you die won't bring my brother back." The pain in her words cut deeper than the threat in the air. "And because," she added quietly, "you looked at me like you actually saw me." Quote. I didn't answer right away. The truth landed in my chest, heavier than the danger around us. Thorne's voice rose again. "Now, before we begin bidding," he said, "I'd like to introduce someone essential to tonight's authenticity process. Our curator, Miss Ela Rosland." Ela froze. He wasn't supposed to call her up now. He was forcing her into the open, under every spotlight, within every shooter's reach. Her hand trembled slightly. "They'll shoot the moment I speak," she whispered. "Not if I change the board," I said. Before she could stop me, I stepped forward and placed my hand gently on her lower back. "Walk with me." "Cassian." "We do this together." We moved toward the stage. Every step tightened the air. Every breath felt like it could be my last. Or hers. Thorne watched us approach with a smile that only widened as we drew closer. He thought he had control. He thought he had us trapped. But he didn't know me. And he didn't know her. Ela stopped at the base of the stage. Her eyes flicked toward the shooters, positions. Then to me. "You shouldn't be up here," she whispered. "I go where you go," I said. Her breath caught. For a man like me, that was as close as a vow. I stepped beside her as she climbed the steps. Thorne's smile faltered for the first time when he saw me following. I stood close enough that if anyone fired, they'd hit me first. Ela looked at me one last time before turning to face the crowd. "And now," Thorne announced, trying to recover, "Miss Rosland will explain the remarkable history of our Barcelona sculptures." Ela lifted the microphone. Her voice was steady. Her heart was not. And everything in me wanted to protect that voice. "Cassian," she whispered without turning her head, "when this ends, if it ends, promise me something." "What?" "Don't walk away." I didn't hesitate. "I'm not going anywhere." When Ela lifted the microphone, I knew every gun in the room shifted its aim. To the crowd, she looked calm and professional, the perfect curator ready to speak about art. But I saw the truth in her eyes. Fear mixed with determination. A woman who had already accepted death once, but wasn't willing to do it tonight. I stood beside the stage, just slightly behind her, close enough that the shooters would hesitate. My body blocked the clean shot they wanted. And I kept my focus sharp, tracking every shadow in the ballroom. Ela drew a breath and began. "These sculptures," she said, her voice clear, "represent rare examples of Florentine marble craftsmanship." The room fell quiet. Even the orchestra lowered their instruments. But their documentation contains inconsistencies requiring immediate review. A soft gasp rippled through the crowd. Thorne's smile froze. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle twitch. Ela continued, each word cutting deeper into his carefully planned night. "Molecular analysis shows traces of a modern sealant not used until the 1980s. These details contradict the stated history of 19th century excavation." The crowd murmured again. People leaned forward. Cameras rose. All eyes were on her. And because all eyes were on her, no one noticed a third shooter move into position. No one except me. I shifted my stance. The slightest turn. Enough to block his angle completely. Enough to let him know he was seen. Ela handed the microphone back to Thorne with a polite smile, one that looked innocent but carried a blade hidden under silk. The developer forced a laugh. "Well," he said tightly, "that's why we value transparency. We'll verify everything before proceeding. Tonight's auction will continue with all other pieces. More controlled applause, more false smiles. People pretending to understand art when what they were really hungry for was scandal." Ela stepped back, and I met her at the edge of the stage. Her shoulders sagged slightly, but her eyes stayed fierce. "You did it," I whispered. "No," she said quietly. "We just started something we can't undo." We walked down the stairs together, shoulder to shoulder. From a distance it looked polite, but inside the ballroom had turned into a battlefield. The shooters stayed in place. No signal yet. Thorn wanted to finish the auction first, then clean up the mess. The next pieces sold quickly. People were impatient now, hungry for gossip, ready for whispers. I stayed close to Ela, my hand lightly touching her back as we moved through the crowd. It wasn't planned, but she didn't pull away. She leaned the smallest bit closer, like my presence steadied her. "Cassian," she murmured, "you need to know something." I watched her carefully. The manuscripts in the final lot, they were stolen from Lion 18 months ago. That explained Thorn's panic earlier. "And you can prove it?" I asked. She nodded. "Every detail, down to the water damage on page 7. The last bidding began. The first paddles rose, then more. The number climbed fast. Too fast. A cover bid. A laundered bid. Another chain in Thorn's operation. I raised my hand. Ela turned to me sharply. "What are you doing?" "Ending this." My bid made the crowd freeze. Whispers rushed through the room. Thorn's mask cracked entirely. He lifted his own paddle, trying to salvage something. But I didn't give him the chance. 600,000, I said. Silence swallowed the ballroom. The auctioneer tried to keep his voice steady. 600,000 going once? Every eye turned to Thorn. He didn't move. He couldn't risk exposing himself further. Going twice. Time stretched. Sold! The gavel hit the podium like a gunshot. My win wasn't about manuscripts. It was a strike, straight at Thorn's pride, his money, his control. Ela exhaled a shaky breath. "You just made yourself a permanent target," she whispered. "I was already one," I said. "Now I'm giving them a reason to be afraid." Thorn approached us, his face a tight mask of fury. "That was bold," he said. "Dangerously bold." I smiled. "I like making statements." He leaned closer, voice sharp as glass. "You won't walk out of this building." Ela stepped between us, her first truly impulsive move all night. "Enough," she said. "You've taken enough from me." And for the first time, Thorn actually looked at her. "You should have stayed quiet, Miss Rosland," he said coldly. "You were useful that way." Ela didn't flinch. "I'd rather die on my feet than live one more day helping you." Quote. I'd never felt admiration hit me that fast. Thorn turned away, making a subtle hand gesture. Shooters, movement, timing. Ela felt it too. Her hand slid into mine, unplanned, almost instinctive. "They're repositioning," she whispered. "Then we leave," I said. "Won't be simple. Nothing worth doing ever is." My security team stepped closer, creating an invisible perimeter around us. As we moved toward the exit, the night air rushed in, cool and sharp. 3 black cars waited at the curb, engines running, doors open. But before she stepped inside, Ela turned to me. Her eyes searched mine with an intensity that made the danger around us fade for a moment. "I don't know what happens now," she said softly. "I just know going back alone feels impossible." I reached out, gently cupping her face, my thumb brushing her cheek. For a man who had built an empire on power and fear, this simple touch felt like the bravest thing I had ever done. "Then don't go back alone," I said. "Stay with me." Her breath caught. "Cassian." "I don't care what comes next," I said. "I'm not letting you walk into it alone." Her fingers curled around my wrist, warm, trembling, real. "Stay," I whispered. "Please." For the first time tonight, her eyes softened, and she nodded. The moment Ela stepped into the SUV beside me, the world outside shifted. The streetlights blurred across the windows, and the ballroom behind us faded into darkness. My security team closed in around the remaining cars, engines revving as they formed a protective convoy. Ela sat close enough that I could feel her breath, but not close enough that she felt safe yet. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles pale against the dim interior light. I watched her for a moment, letting her breathe, letting her mind settle. "You're shaking," I said quietly. "I'm not afraid of dying," she whispered. "I'm afraid of what comes after. What they'll do to the people connected to me. What they've already done." I reached over and gently took her hands. She let me. Her fingers were cold but strong. "You're not alone anymore," I said. "I won't let anything happen to you." Quote. She lifted her eyes to mine, and for the first time I saw something break open inside her. Something softer, something wounded, something she'd hidden from the world while carrying too much on her shoulders. Before either of us could speak again, the radio crackled. "Boss," my driver said, "3 vehicles trailing us. Distance is closing." Ela inhaled sharply. "They're not waiting," she whispered. "Thorne won't risk us reaching safety." "He won't get the chance," I said. We turned onto a narrower street. Savannah at night glowed with dim orange lights, but the shadows were deep enough to hide danger. The trailing vehicles followed closer now, their engines rumbling like a warning. My security team adjusted positions, blocking the rear cars and tightening the formation. "He deployed the shooters," Ela said quietly. "These aren't just men. These are professionals." "So are mine," I replied. We made a sharp turn, then another. The streets blurred. Tires screeched behind us as one of the pursuing cars cut the corner too fast. "Try to lose them," I ordered. The driver accelerated. The engine roared. Ela braced against the seat as our SUV surged ahead. My men in the second vehicle dropped behind us to cut off the pursuers. A loud crash echoed through the night. "They hit the barricade," the driver said. "2 more behind them, still coming." Ela's breath trembled. "Not from fear. There was something else now. You've been living like this for years," she whispered. "Yes. It never ends, does it?" Quote. I looked at her, at the sadness and anger and exhaustion twisting her expression. "No," I said honestly, "not until you decide what's worth fighting for." She didn't look away. "Tonight, I think I finally decided." Her voice was soft but steady, stronger than she knew. We turned into a private driveway behind a row of old brick buildings. The gates swung open. The convoy pulled inside a secured courtyard surrounded by high walls and guarded entrances. Once the gates closed behind us, the danger outside felt distant, though far from gone. The SUV stopped. Ela didn't move for a moment. She stared at the reinforced doors ahead, where my private safehouse waited. When I opened her door, she stepped out, her legs unsteady before she caught herself. "Does anyone know about this place?" she asked. "No," I said. "Just me, and now you." Her eyes softened, just a little. Inside, the safehouse was quiet and warm. Soft lighting, wood floors, a long leather couch in the center of the room. It wasn't a home, but it was the closest place I had to one. Ela walked slowly, looking around like she didn't want to be caught needing comfort. But she did. "You can breathe here," I said. "For the first time tonight." She turned to face me. Something inside her finally loosened. Her shoulders fell. Her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding the pieces of her own heart. "I didn't think I'd make it out of that ballroom," she whispered. "Not alive." "Not whole." I stepped closer. "But you did." She looked up at me, her voice soft. "Because of you." I reached for her hand. She didn't pull back this time. She stepped closer instead, closing the space between us. Her body pressed gently into mine, as if she'd finally allowed herself to feel what fear wouldn't let her before. "You saved my life," she whispered, "and I don't even know your favorite color." I smiled. For the first time that night, it wasn't forced. "Red," I said. "Like the dress you almost wore before choosing the green one." She blinked. "How did you?" "I notice everything about you." Her breath caught, warm against my chest. "And you," I continued, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You walked into my world without fear. You stood up to a man who kills without blinking. You looked me in the eye when everyone else looks away." Her hand slid up my chest, slow, trembling. "You're not what I expected," she whispered. "No," I said. "And you're more than I ever expected." Her eyes searched mine, not for danger, not for lies, for truth. "What happens now?" she asked. "We fight," I said. "Together." "And after that?" I cupped her face gently, my thumb brushing her cheek. Her breath steadied under my touch. For the first time, she didn't try to hide how fragile she felt inside this storm. After that, I whispered, we build something new, something that isn't born from fear. Her voice broke softly, Cassian. She leaned forward, slow, unsure, and pressed her forehead against mine. My hand slid to her waist, her fingers curled into my shirt. I don't want to run anymore, she said quietly. I don't want to be alone anymore. You're not, I said. And then I pulled her into my arms. She didn't resist. She melted into me like she had finally found a place where the world couldn't break her. Her breath shuddered against my shoulder. My grip tightened around her, as if letting go wasn't an option. Not now. Not ever. When she finally lifted her head, her eyes were wet but strong. Stay, she whispered. My heart cracked open. I'm right here, I said. I'm not going anywhere. She closed her eyes, exhaling a breath that sounded like freedom. Outside, danger waited. War waited. But inside this quiet room, something fragile and rare formed between us. Hope. Something worth surviving for. Something worth fighting for. Something that felt, against all odds, like the beginning of a love neither of us expected.